Welcome back into the film room. I'm your host, Erik Turner. Another week, another brief film session here at Cover One, and I'm joined again by my man, Anthony Prohasker from Disguise Coverage. Anthony, what's going on, brother?
We're starting to get close to real off-season stuff. We've been in like wading into the water a little bit the last couple of weeks, and now the combine is here this week. Free agency officially starts in 2 weeks. We have the draft at the end of next month because we're already in March, and things have come out about previous draft classes and people that the Bills have brought in, which inspired this episode. And I changed my tree in the back to be St. Patrick's Day themed. So
it kind of passes now.
Yep, it always passes. It's always thematically decorated. How dare you? But yeah, I'm excited and happy to be back.
It's funny, on one of the videos the other night, someone made a comment. I perused the comments, and someone said, I was dying when Anthony mentioned his tree again in the background. I'm like, that's his go-to. Like, he's got to. Either it's a comment from the chat room or it's a comment from Anthony, right?
Everyone always questions it. They're always like, bro, but why has he got a tree? And I'm like, are you new here? Do you not get it?
Welcome here.
Yeah, welcome.
Kendall, awesome background, man. Welcome back into the film room, brother.
Yeah, finally got the background up. Yeah, it's nice to be back in the film room. Nice to get closer to draft season. I was so excited. Like, I knew that the combine was starting. I hopped into NFL Network and I was like, it hasn't started yet. They're just talking to personnel people. I was like so excited to start watching drills, and it's like it's not quite there yet, but we're almost there. And it's so weird. I talked about this last night. It's so weird because we just have to keep flip-flopping from draft to free agency like this entire offseason, because it's like, oh, the draft isn't really here yet, so let's talk about free agency. Then the combine starts, and you're like, yo, we're heavy into the draft, and then the combine's gone, and then you're like, oh, free agency is starting right now, and then you're back into the draft. It's such a flip-floppy nature of the offseason, but I'm here for it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about having a good team now. Your team's not done. They're playing into the playoffs. And, like for me, I started my scouting a little later than usual. So it's a different time of the year. And as you said, we're going to be flipping back and forth between free agency, combine, and the draft overall in the next few weeks. But I wanted to change it up. As I was talking with Anthony prior to the show, after trying to cram all these prospects and watch all this film, and your eyes start to bug out after a while, and you kind of have to take a step back, a little reset. And I thought that a tweet from Field Yates kind of was a good way to approach this episode and talk about, something different. And it's kind of evaluating the 2018 draft class. And as one of the comments says here, Christy says, he says, you always have such good video ideas, and we can't take credit for it. What we're going to talk about tonight is that draft class of 2018, and it was inspired by this tweet from Field Yates, and it said the first 6 picks by the Bills in 2018. Josh Allen, 6 years, $258 million extension, franchise quarterback, obviously. They got that done. Linebacker Tremaine Edmunds, hot topic, 2 Pro Bowls under his belt, very productive career, but his contract, his future with the Bills hangs in the balance. Defensive tackle Harrison Phillips, 107 tackles in his career. Obviously, a guy that has had some injury issues, some availability issues. But when he's been healthy, especially this year, the back half of this year, man, he put together a really nice season in his contract season. Cornerback Taron Johnson, 3 years, $24 million extension. A guy that's come a long way from his time at Weber State. Saran Neal, special teams ace, a guy that's filled in at corners, safety, slot, big nickel. I mean, any type of role player, role name, he's probably had it. And he was just extended for 3 years, $10.9 million. And then, of course, the one that got away, the one that was traded away, Wyatt Teller, guard, traded to the Browns, all pro. I mean, you can't say he's honestly one of the top 5 guards in the league, to put it plain and simple. So, yes, this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. This draft class, and as we were talking about offline, it's something that we should probably be doing more now that we have a few years of this regime, Brandon Beane being the general manager, and looking back at the draft classes and how they unfolded, how the players have developed, and, some of the in-depth film stuff, but also some of the advanced metrics and things that we love to talk about here in the film room. So, Kendall, I'm going to give it to you, man. Give us your thoughts on Tremaine Edmunds and what you found in your research.
Look at his face.
First things first, we need to preface this. Please, everyone, if you disagree, like ask a question. Don't like close your mind and
Attack
say
Kendall.
he's trash. Let's just preface this with why do you think that? Ask the curiosity question instead of the accusatory combative remarks. So that's my preface. No, the first thing is what I do want to say is I think everyone's really upset with Bean for trading up for Tremaine Edmunds when they could have had Fred Warner in the third round. And I mean, that's understandable, but I mean, you don't know how they felt about Fred Warner. They clearly wanted to bet on traits with Tremaine Edmunds. And they
also,
did
that means that him going in the third means every other team passed on him
team,
twice.
100%.
Same thing with Darius
Exactly.
Leonard. Everybody passed on him in the first round,
Yes.
and then a bunch of teams passed on him in the second.
Exactly. And the point I'm going for with this is the Bills traded their 22nd overall pick to get up to 16. That 22nd overall pick turned into Rashaan Evans, who's about to get beat out by David Long in Tennessee for that linebacker position. Like Rashaan Evans wasn't anything either. Yeah, they could have picked, Darius Leonard or Fred Warner, whatever. But the point is, Bean didn't really mess up with the trade up to go get him. That we shouldn't be placing blame there. Everything really comes down to how much of the potential is Edmunds realizing. And I think a lot of people are upset that he hasn't realized all of that potential, and they're getting afraid of the payday that he's going to get. And I need to echo Erik's sentiments on who cares. If Bean thinks he can get it done, he can get it done. Bean knows how to work the books. If you guys have problems with it, talk to our guy Greg. I'm sure he can tell you how it's going to work out even if it happens. But I understand people getting a little wishy-washy about assigning so much money to the front seven. But maybe that's the philosophy of this team, assigning money to the front seven and developing guys on the back four.
And just kind of piggyback that real quick before you get into some of these analytics.
Mhm.
And because it's something that we've always talked about the last few weeks when Tremaine Edmunds has come up in the conversation is, guys, we don't want to spend $25 million among two linebackers. But as we talked about, first of all, the Bills defense is a nickel defense. So, Milano and Edmunds are going to be on the field a majority of the time.
Mm-hmm.
That third linebacker who they're paying AJ Klein to be that third linebacker, they're paying him a hefty price when they really could scale that back a little more. But with that said, times are a little different, and this defense is a little different because they play so much nickel and because they, rely on those linebackers to play coverage so much more than a lot of other defenses in the league. So you have to take that into account when talking about the value of the linebackers, the value of a Taron Johnson. We talked about that, his role as a slot corner, like that nuance has to be incorporated in this conversation.
Yes, absolutely. That is a massive part of it. It is the importance of the linebacker position in this defense. But now that I'll jump into the analytics, I'm not going to jump into the coverage stuff quite yet because there's a lot with that. Yeah. There's so many different columns with that because it gets muddied. But simply with the run defense advanced stats, I broke it down with missed tackle rate, stop percentage, and average depth of tackle. So obviously a big thing with Tremaine Edmunds was his missed tackles. Everyone was like, he's missing too many tackles. Mm-hmm. He doesn't make enough hard-hitting tackles, all of this kind of stuff. So I looked at 2021, where does he rank missed tackle rate? And you look at these guys that people are like, oh, I wish the Bills had. Roquan Smith, Devin Bush, Demario Davis, Fred Warner, Levante David, Bobby Wagner, Micah Parsons, Miles Jack, even Matt Milano. All of these guys, Devin White is dead last in this category from this past year. All of these guys are below Tremaine Edmunds. Now, what I will say, Tremaine Edmunds was very poor in this area. He was very poor. In 2019, he was at 13.8%, which was 47th. In 2019, he was at 13.1%, tied for 34th with Zach Cunningham. 2020, he went back up to 13.3, 40th. And we know he had a pretty down 2020 season with the bum shoulder and all. But this year, he really turned it around, bringing it all the way from that 13% area down to 7.5%, which is just an insane arc of progression for that specific area that he needed to focus on And I think that's something that kind of gets lost in watching the game on broadcast. You see a missed tackle and you kind of support your priors. You're just like, I'm really upset with him because he misses so many tackles. And anytime you see it, even though his numbers were down in 2021, you kind of blame that as a reason not to re-sign Tremaine Edmunds.
Yeah, and one of the things that always stands out with him is obviously his size and his length, and that tackle radius has always been touted as, a strength for him. And, it was nice to see him improve in this area, not miss as many tackles. And again, the scheme has a lot to do with that. If you go back and look at some of the, obviously Luke Kuechly is probably the exception, but like even Thomas Davis for the Panthers, like he, much like Milano and Tremaine Edmunds early on in his career, missed tackles because they're aggressive. Especially Milano. He's a guy that just wants to make those tackle for losses. You're going to have, that's kind of the aggressiveness you want him to play with, and you got to live with him missing tackles. It kind of comes with the territory of playing in this defense. And as Anthony talked about, a lot of times, they're light in the box there, and you're having a linebacker having to basically occupy and account for two gaps. And if he guesses wrong, he may not have a chance to make a tackle. If he's guesses right and goes and shoots fires his gun, he may just miss a tackle, or he may make a tackle for loss. So it was nice to see him improve in this area.
Yeah, 100%. This was definitely something that I was happy to see the breakdown of, where it started in 2018 to where it is in 2021. I'm actually going to jump straight to average depth of tackle because I think it plays right off of what you were just saying. And the way I see Edmunds and Milano, it's kind of a symbiotic relationship that I could compare to a 1 tech versus a 3 tech. And I think the way they work together, I think are very similar with what the Bills do at the second level with their linebackers. Milano is your aggressing, disruptive 3 tech, and Tremaine Edmunds is your 2 gapping, make sure you push the cut back to your 3 tech, 1 tech. That's kind of how I see them. It's you kind of just extrapolate the 3 tech and 1 tech positions and push it back to the second level. That's how I view those two. And that's why year after year, you're going to see Edmunds has a lower average depth of tackle than Matt Milano, because Matt Milano is the downhill player. He's the aggressor. He's going to go after those splashier plays, which is why everyone loves Matt Milano.
And to add to that, Kendall, and that's because more times than not, that linebacker in Milano is aligned to the strength of the formation.
Yes.
He is covered up by that 3 technique. He's got that aggressive 3 technique in front of him, and Ed Oliver, he's that aggressive guy, so they play off each other. They're the aggressors, as Kendall said. The nose tackle, whether it be Harris Phillips, Star Latulippe, and Tremaine Edmunds at the second level, those are the safety nets. Those are what I call, the finisher, the wrap-up guy, the netting that, brings the guys down that are trying to run to the strength of the formation, but then eventually are disrupted, forced to cut back, and guess who's there waiting with his wingspan in Tremaine Edmunds.
Exactly. So I won't go into as much detail with these, but really with stop percentage and average depth of tackle, the same point needs to be made that I made with missed tackle rate, where it got better over years, but also compare him to his peers. There are guys that we consider elite at the linebacker position. And these are guys like Fred Warner, Bobby Wagner, Levante David, Devin White, Demario Davis, Eric Kendricks. All of these guys are below Tremaine Edmunds in stop percentage. And you look at average depth of tackle. People complain that all of Edmunds' tackles are 8 yards down the field when it doesn't even matter. Once the first down has already been had, stuff like that. Look who's below him: Bobby Wagner, Devin White, Levante David, Miles Jack, Eric Kendricks, Demario Davis. The point I'm trying to make is not that Tremaine Edmunds himself is elite, but every elite player isn't perfect. Every elite player has weaknesses. Every player in the NFL has weaknesses. It's about matching those with some strengths. It's about finding those areas that you're weak and making up for them in other areas. And you can't fault Edmunds just because he's 18th here, because you look at guys like Bobby Wagner and he's 24th. So you can't just kind of slap a label on a guy and not compare him to his peers, because his peers actually don't even rank better than him in a lot of areas. Obviously, there are the Darius Leonards of the world who are above him in just
but even that,
category.
that's like it's less than half a yard.
It's
Yeah.
so
in depth of
marginal.
tackle.
It is so marginal. And that is the point. And I'll get to the marginal and the ridiculousness of the position a little bit more once we get to coverage.
Yeah, Anthony, I'll throw this to you real quick. Kind of wrap up the segment on, maybe his run defense, his progression in that area, and his role in the Bills defense.
I'm sorry. I just read the comment that says Edmunds' main problem struggles to disengage from blocks, and then 2, does not consistently diagnose run gaps. I'm so frustrated with Tremaine Edmunds' conversation. Like you see his role in this defense and what he's asked to do. And again, we're prefacing it with multiple prefaces. The main one being, we don't think Tremaine Edmunds is elite. Nobody here is saying because people on Twitter are like, well, cover 1 loves Tremaine Edmunds. There are a bunch of Tremaine Edmunds stands. I've seen people who come, stands, people who come and tell me like, well, bro, you love Tremaine Edmunds. I'm on record multiple times on video and on Twitter saying, well, I think Tremaine Edmunds is around like 12 to 15 in terms of like middle linebacker. Sometimes he plays like in top 10, but he's not consistently there. I don't think that's standing for anyone. And I think that's a pretty similar thought amongst us here at Cover 1.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think he's amazing. But what we think is he bears a burden that is tremendously tough to bear in this defense. What is asked of him in this defense? And I want to pivot because I got into a conversation with a person on Twitter about this. Before anybody comes to say, well, I mean, Luke Kuechly did it. I don't want to hear that the Panthers defense with Luke Kuechly and the Bills defense with Tremaine Edmunds are the same defense. We're not going to go into it in depth now, but just off the basis of the fact that the Panthers played a 4-3 with 3 linebackers and the Bills do not, right there throws your argument completely out the window. It changes a lot of things, let alone the makeup of the defensive line, so on and so forth. Tremaine Edmunds bears a tremendous burden, no pun intended, a tremendous burden on his shoulders. What he's asked to do, the composition and makeup of the personnel in front of him for what he has to do in the run game, where he's asked to 2-gap and what he's asked to read and diagnose, what he does in coverage, which doesn't get appreciated because it doesn't really get seen, his ability to be a deterrent for so many things. But then, something the 3 of us have talked about so much that we're going to get to in a bit, he gets credited for all those stupid checkdowns in the middle of the field because of the position that he plays and because of the style of defense. So this is not to say that Tremaine Edmunds is amazing. This is not to say that he's elite, that we think he should get Fred Warner or Darius Leonard money or all these things. The point is, 1, scrutinize other players in the league as much as you scrutinize the people on your team. 2, watch those games as much as you do. Because I highly doubt, I don't feel like I'm probably going to sound like a jerk. I want to know for all the people, Leonard doesn't do that. Warner doesn't do that. Devondre Campbell this. Cool. How many Packers games are you watching? 2 a year? 1 maybe? How many Niners games are you watching? Like, you got Sunday Ticket and you put it on all the time because they don't get a ton of national play like that unless they're on primetime. Watch with the same eye that you scrutinize the Bills players. Do not move goalposts like Kendall has happened to him when he shows stats and someone says, well, go watch the film. And then he's like, well, I did watch the film and I found this. And they're like, well, go get stats. Like, oh, that's funny. This is a Romeo rant with more control. It's just, it's so frustrating because I feel like people don't. And again, when we say this, they're saying we make excuses for him. We're not. He bears a lot on his shoulders and on his plate that a lot of these other linebackers do not, given the scheme and the personnel makeup of this Bills defense. And again, it's not giving him a pass. He can be better. He has plenty of areas of opportunity, but he gets criticized far too much, and too much blame gets put on his shoulders. Sorry.
No, let it all out, man. We're just letting you breathe here, right?
I hate everyone. Kendall,
why don't you carry on with the coverage portion of the stats? It's something that we always talk about. Like, I love PFF for a lot of things aside from their grades, but even I love their advanced metrics, but coverage snaps, especially when we're talking, surrendering a reception to a receiver or running back, especially when, the Bills defense plays as much zone as they do, it can get really dicey when you're talking about statistics and using those statistics in research. So why don't you talk about that and what you found as far as coverage goes?
So firstly, I want to say I wouldn't be showing these stats if I was a Tremaine Edmunds stan, because these stats don't do him a lot of justice. These
Right.
stats will expose him, and I wouldn't be showing you these if they supported my narrative. I'm showing you these to explain to you, like Erik is alluding to, why some of these grading systems could use some tweaking and why they don't paint an entirely accurate picture. So my biggest issue with coverage grades and how PFF does their coverage grades is how it ruins zone coverage. It completely ruins the value that every defender has in zone coverage, because they're all expected to drop to a specific spot and play out a specific responsibility. And in this Bills defense, we know it's bend, don't break, play high to low on all your reads, and let those easy completions in front of you, and then everyone gang tackle together, and let's bet that they can't complete or convert multiple third downs and get some points out of this. That's what the Bills defense does. And because of that, there's a lot of checkdowns to the middle portion of the field. And when that happens, when there's a 2-yard completion to a little curl route to a JD McKissick, that gets credited to Tremaine Edmunds, who's dropping 7 to 10 yards back in a cover 2 shell,
carrying someone up the field.
It doesn't make sense. And that is where, this is me speaking from bias a little bit, but also some objectiveness. I worked for Sports Info Solutions, and we have a data point for when someone is in zone coverage and there's an easy completion and there's a nearest defender, but that nearest defender is like 5 yards away. You don't want to ding that defender for doing his job. You don't want to ding him for dropping into a zone and letting a 2-yard completion happen just because it was there. That's something you ding to team defense, which essentially is just a wash of a stat. You essentially just don't even use that as a metric. That was just, the offense found where the opening in the zone was and they attacked it. You don't want to ding any specific player. That was just the offense reading the defense and finding the hole. And here is the perfect example for Erik. Go for it.
Yeah, so this is the longest reception that Tremaine Edmunds surrendered in 2021. And now I will say he gets manhandled down the field. Don't get me wrong, but this little screen out to Gibson here counted against Tremaine Edmunds' numbers in reception surrendered. This 73-yard screenplay with Tremaine Edmunds in the middle of the field here, almost to the logo, was charged to him. Again, this would be in SIS's system charged to team defense. This wouldn't go against Tremaine Edmunds. This wouldn't go against his coverage grade like it did by surrendering this. It's a flawed way to look at, grading players, evaluating players, because not every stat, not every play is going to, it should be accounted to someone. Like, just because someone dumps it down 3 yards near the line of scrimmage, when like Anthony said, and your linebackers in Tampa 2 and he's dropping out, like, you can't count that against him. That he's doing his job. When we're going to talk about it in the film room, that, these type of grading systems, you could be doing your job perfectly. You could be consistent, but little checkdowns, little, outlet passes to the flats can still count against you in their system. But if you went into the building and you talked to the coaches of the team, they're like, no, that's not a -1 on him. That's actually a +2. He did his job. He rerouted the guy. Like, it's just a flawed way to look at it. And that's why I do tend to lean more towards Sports Info Solutions. But again, PFF is great, but there are some things that when we look at, the coverage numbers, that it is a little flawed.
Yeah. And specifically, I think a big thing too is how much they add value to those splash plays, those plays that literally add stats to the stat sheet. You look at who has the highest coverage grades. I bet you they have a high number of PBUs and a high number of interceptions. Those are certain things that just inflate that grade like crazy. And plays where Edmunds is making the quarterback look another way and pass the ball to a different guy, which I think we'll get to in specifically the Bucks, the Bucks example. he's making the quarterback go to a different player. He's making the quarterback read the defense in one way. Oh, that's not open. I'm going to pass to this guy. And Edmunds is doing his job there, but he's not getting credit for that in PFF's system because he didn't do anything to create a stat on that play.
Yes.
So that's a lot of it too for me, where just because you create a stat on the stat sheet, that doesn't mean more than any other play where you're doing your job, dropping into the correct area and zone and taking away a receiver.
Yeah, I mean, for the season, Edmunds registered a 34.6 coverage grade according to Pro Football Focus. And their grading starts at 60. Mm-hmm. So that's basically saying that Tremaine Edmunds was basically a trash can on the field. Like, come on, guys. Like,
well, some people would say that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it in the pregame notes, so I'm just reiterating what I saw in the notes.
That's right.
But this is that play that, you know, one of the plays that, you know, we're talking about. Like, here's Tremaine Edmunds. He's dropping out into his zone. He deters the throw to this receiver right here and forces the quarterback to go across the field. And you see me highlighting Jordan Poyer right there. And as the quarterback comes across the field, Poyer picks it off. And he has a nice return on that. All because the Bills are in zone coverage. Tremaine Edmunds took away the first option of the quarterback there and, you know, forced the quarterback to go to another option. And the Bills go ahead and register a play, an interception, kind of like the Jerry Hughes thing I posted last night, where he gets a pressure, flushes the quarterback out, and, you know, Micah Hyde gets an interception. But as Kendall said, where's the love? Where's the love? You know, of course, pressures don't matter. But where's the love for the guy that, you know, was the catalyst to those turnovers, right, Anthony?
Yeah, that's, you know, it's something we've said, like, and then this is where people also come in, like, and I understand this point of view, right? Because we say, you know, Edmunds is a deterrent and is kind of like an assist man, right? That previous play with the Poyer interception shows it. But people, and I get this point, people, based on the fact that we traded up, based on the fact that he was a first round pick with all these traits, people want more than an assist man. They want a 40, 50 goal scorer. They want those splash plays. They want those impact plays. And I understand that. But there's still both sides. Like, yes, he's not delivering those traditional splash or impact plays that you want, but he still does a lot for this defense and makes a lot of good plays. But again, this brings us to our original point too, and something we say all the time. What's so problematic about him, and this is where I feel like people think we're making it up or we're stands, a lot of what he does, it's not visible on the broadcast. It's not visible in a box score. It's not visible unless you grind the hell out of film like we grind the hell out of film. And you see these types of plays where he's making plays that don't show up again on box scores. They don't show up on the broadcast angle, but he allows others to succeed. He is that hockey assist man, and it's not sexy and it's not splash plays, but who is that, Pringle or Hardman that he's carrying up the field? Okay, Pringle. Byron Pringle runs a 4-4. He's carrying a 4-4 wide receiver up the seam of the field. And some people just were, you know, well, he can't read the run. Well, he can't get off blocks. Understandable. Everybody has faults. Stop telling us he can't cover. Look at that.
And this is my point of this. The first few plays is, you know, I got into it with someone on Twitter this week about, well, yeah, I expect my linebacker to do that. Oh, so you expect your linebacker to be consistent and carry guys, you know, down the middle of the field in Tampa 2 coverages, a la Urlacher. Like, okay, and you don't want to reward that guy? Yeah, consistent, you know, doing your job and being consistent is why guys get paid market value. They're being asked to do something, and they're executing it consistently. As you see there, another one. Tampa 2 down the middle of the field, and that leads to a pass breakup by Milano underneath. Again, Kendall talked about it. You know, they're symbiotic. They're very, you know, very reliant on each other. They played so many reps together, and they just complement each other so well. So you see Edmunds carry the guy down the middle of the field. Milano's the guy making the pass breakup. So much like that Poyer play, it's just something that doesn't get talked about.
And that's
enough.
A point too, right there, because what does everybody come away from that play saying? Man, Milano's awesome. Edmunds doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
that's what you see, because Milano gets the sexy plays and Edmunds does not. And that's not to say that we think Edmunds is better. That's not what we're saying. But it's a difference in role combined with the scheme and what they're asked to do.
And Kendall, when I talk to players on the team, especially guys on the defensive side, they always say, you know, their defense wouldn't be as good as it has been if it wasn't for Tremaine Edmunds. And you see him here setting the coverage. It's something he has to do every single play. Every single play, he's got to call the passing strength. He's got to get everyone lined up. He's got to get the front four lined up. All of that prior to the play. And what we're going to get into tonight is kind of their zone coverages, because a lot of people think that, like, hey, if you're playing cover 2, you're playing cover 3, you're just getting to a landmark somewhere on the field. But no. The Bills play pattern matching zone coverages. So what you're going to see tonight is Tremaine Edmunds and the Bills defense running a lot of pattern matching plays. So on this one, you saw Tremaine Edmunds at the beginning of the play kind of like he's playing the air guitar. It's their banjo coverage. It's their trap coverage, usually against 3x1 sets, 3x2 sets like this empty set. So you're going to see Tremaine Edmunds and the slot corner here, Cam Lewis, pattern matching the tight end there. And you're also seeing Trey White, kind of pattern matching, kind of trapping.
Explain to everyone, just in case, what do you mean by pattern matching?
So you see the release. Both of those guys are reading the release of the tight end here. Now, if they were hypothetically going to run out routes right here like this, what's going to end up happening is you're going to get the 3 defenders right here trapping. So you're going to get Trey White jumping this out route. You're going to get Cam Lewis jumping that out route by the tight end. And then Tremaine Edmunds, his eyes would basically go back onto the quarterback and play the middle zone here. But what happens on this play is the tight end just hooks it up, right? He just hooks it up. And so when he does that, Tremaine Edmunds breaks on it. Again, take into account where he lined up, the drop, and they're throwing it underneath, right? Throwing it underneath. He wraps them up. This is what the Bills do philosophically. Hey, if you want to throw it underneath, you want to throw it short, we're going to rally and tackle. Edmunds does that. He wraps them up. And then Cam Lewis comes in and punches the ball out. And he gets the glory, and the recovery is made by Klein there. So very, 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 little success on this play went to Tremaine Edmunds when he just did his job. He was consistent with his job, setting the coverage, setting the front. But again, the play goes to Cam Lewis there on the fumble force.
You know what I'll say on that one real quick?
Ahead.
For everyone that wants Tremaine Edmunds to hit harder, if he hit harder on that play, there wouldn't have been a fumble from Cam Lewis. He held him up and allowed the peanut punch. That's my 1 point on that.
Tackle.
And so here's another, banjo coverage. Now, I talked about the outbreaking routes. Well, now watch the slot corner, Taron Johnson, and watch Tremaine Edmunds, his release. So now they're pattern matching these 2 guys right here, Gronk and Godwin. So they're squeezing the route by Gronk, and as Gronk gets into the route over here, that bender route over the middle, Godwin comes across the middle. Now what Tremaine Edmunds has to do, he's playing this high to low. Again, that's what the Bills defense, that's what they do. They play high to low. So Tremaine Edmunds pass Gronk on, and as Godwin gets over the middle, he breaks and makes the tackle. So these are plays that are being charged to Tremaine Edmunds, but really he's kind of just doing his job. And it's really, it sucks, but that's the scheme, right, Kendall?
Yeah, this is probably one where he got dinged a lot on PFF, because this is what I don't know the down, but it's 3 yards till a first down, and he surrenders a first down on this play. And in all honesty, if I'm charting this for SIS, I'm giving this as Edmunds as the primary defender. He's right there, but he's also doing his job by rerouting Gronk to make sure there's time for the safety to get over onto that bender route. You can see he reroutes him outside of that hash to give his safety some time to get over there, but he's also right there to make the play and mitigate some yards after the catch from Chris Godwin. So you cannot discount that despite letting up the first down, because he did do his 111th on that play.
And this is, Anthony, this is one of their base coverages. This is their quarters coverage look. And now they tweaked it about halfway through the season where on the backside of these formations, they were running man-to-man to the top of the screen, as you see there. But again, same type of release, 2 in-breaking routes. Their banjo coverage. So you see Edmunds and Johnson get depth there. And then as Godwin comes across the middle, Tremaine Edmunds on this play is a little late. He should be getting leverage across the field. And I think we'll see it from the end zone angle a little better. You want to see him leverage horizontally with Godwin a little more. But again, this one is really on Edmunds, but shows you how defenses or how offenses attack this banjo coverage. Again, a base coverage in the Bills scheme.
That's a huge piece of it too. Like I think a lot of times when you're focusing on your individual team, you're only focusing on like them failing or succeeding. And there's not enough talked about your opponent and the fact that they're also professionals and what they're trying to
Yes.
do. And both of those Buccaneers clips, those are good called plays executed by good players, and they're designed to put Tremaine Edmunds in conflict. And he's kind of, again, this isn't giving him a pass, but he's kind of in that damned if you do, damned if you don't. Okay, cool. Does he carry Gronk and reroute him? Okay, he gives up the throw underneath to Chris Godwin. Does he jump the Godwin route early? Okay, cool. He gets hit by Gronk behind and he gives up a bigger play, which is never going to happen ideally, because again, this is a keep everything in front of you, bend but don't break defense. So they're not going to give up that big splash play, but they're going to give up a bunch of little surgical things underneath you because they're playing the odds and they're playing that bend but don't break style. So he's in conflict so much, whether it's in the run or in the pass, like we're showing here, where again, nobody's giving him a pass, but he's in these lose-lose scenarios based on his position and based on the role and scheme of the defense.
Yeah, and you saw that clip in the Patriots game. You see it in this Chiefs game at the end of the first half. Again, he's doing his job here. It's surrendered to Hill, but he leverages him good enough to keep him going east and west, and forces that guy to get out of bounds there. But it's a minimal gain. And honestly, these are all passes that are charged to Tremaine Edmunds when really, again, they're giving him that. As Anthony said, if Edmunds were, and this is what they wanted, they want him to come downhill more to open up Pringle. To open up Pringle at that next level. But Tremaine Edmunds, again, he plays it, soft, but that's what he's supposed to do. And he's supposed to just leverage. He's supposed to use that range. And a lot of time, the other thing that's not talked about enough is, on the front side of this play, Milano, as in the prior clips, is in, man coverage pretty much widening out there. So there's a lot of green for Edmunds to carry, and that's why his athleticism, his speed, his range does come in hand when we're talking about these type of pattern matching coverages.
Yeah, 100%. He's definitely undervalued for that reason, because he's not making those stat sheet stuffing plays. But there are plays like this where he's doing his job. He's doing his job, guys. And really, at the end of the day, I think the key stat where this is why I wish that screen to Gibson wasn't charted the way it was. That's one where I think him and his ability to mitigate yards after the catch is probably the area that you want to hone in on most for criticism, or where you assign him value, because that's really what his job is in coverage. It's to rally to the ball carrier and make that tackle as quickly as possible, because like we've said plenty of times, he's processing high to low. So when that low pass is completed, you want to make sure you're making that tackle early and not allowing yards after the catch.
And for those people that said that, you want to see more physicality from Edmunds, I thought that we saw that this year. Now, is it to the potential that he can be with his size? No. But we saw him lay the lick, and you saw a couple of these Patriots plays where, again, he's pattern matching with the tight end and Jacoby Myers there, and him and Johnson are working that pattern match. Tight end gets vertical. Now he hones in on the crosser. He goes
Erik,
downhill.
real quick, the film screen isn't sharing.
It's not sharing anymore?
I got it.
There you go. There we go.
All right. And so you see it here. Like, you see him, again, pattern match. And as the tight end gets vertical, here comes Myers across the middle. And he's able to minimize that gain, something that we see time and time again. I mean, it's just, now the Bills defense isn't super complex when we're talking about coverages. They just do their coverages really, really well. A lot of it's based in game plan. Well, the other team gets paid too. And you're going to see some of these next clips and how they didn't necessarily take advantage of Edmunds, but they took advantage of the scheme and Leslie Frazier's scheme, which is why we want to see him kind of mix it up a little more. So you're going to see Evans get hit down the middle from that bunch set, but it's literally the same coverage we've been breaking down. Edmunds and Johnson are watching the option route by Godwin. He breaks inside. So does Evans over the middle. So these two guys, Johnson, Edmunds, jump Godwin. Well, guess what? Now you have Evans wide open over the middle, and the safeties are occupied. They have to stay back, especially Poyer, who normally be a little lower to break on this right here. He's got to stay a little higher because he got Gronk running that deep corner. So this is the Buccaneers, again, a team obviously paid to beat this type of coverage and have the weapons to push it down the field. This is really them, Anthony, taking advantage of the scheme, not necessarily Tremaine Edmunds.
That's exactly right. When you play, again, I don't want to say vanilla because I feel like that's a negative connotation and an insult to a degree. But when you play these more vanilla types of coverages, teams can anticipate that and design plays to attack those coverages that they anticipate are coming. And the Bills, to their credit, they also know that. They're just so well coached and they're so good at communicating and playing within the scheme that most of the time, legitimately, most of the time, that's why they were the number one defense in terms of DVOA. They're able to communicate and pattern match, and they have little intricacies and games built into their vanilla coverages. But you will have times, where teams are able to take advantage of that type of defense. The same way they used to see the Tampa 2. Every once in a while, somebody hits that honey hole shot on a smash concept, and it's like, well, tip your hat. They beat the coverage. It is what it is. Put your helmet on. Let's get after it the next play. You're going to get beat from time to time. The key is, and that's what our whole thing is, right? Even us, I think we study our asses off. We watch a lot. We read a lot. Even we don't know exactly what everyone's responsibility is on any given play. And that's, I think, what we're trying to communicate with a lot of this Edmunds talk is so much like that previous Buccaneers play. There's a completion in the middle of the field, and I think somebody sees like, well, why wasn't Edmunds in there? That's his zone. He's the middle linebacker. He's got to make that play. But that's not really on him. It has to do with the scheme, and you're going to credit and blame him for that. But the blame doesn't necessarily lie with him. Could he make an amazing play and make a stop? Of course. But, if the bear didn't stop to take a crap in the woods, he would have caught the rabbit. That's not a fair thing. Like, you have to understand the larger scheme and the larger game at play.
Yeah, and Kendall, I want you to talk about this play. So same coverage, and you're going to see Kelsey sneak across the field right here on the bender route. So instead of sending that shallow drag, they sneak Kelsey behind the second level, and you see Hill to the bottom of the screen. He's matched up with a corner and man coverage. Obviously, the safety to his side, he's got to stay deep. He can't come down on Kelsey coming over the middle. And so this does fall on Edmunds, but it's a lot of green, given the fact that, again, Milano is a man coverage. He's vacating out here to the bottom. And, you'd like to see Edmunds have his head, on a swivel, turn around, and being talked about this, turn around, find a target.
Yes.
Even though there is a lot of green to cover. But again, you can see some of the scheme issue here and also how much stress they're putting on Tremaine Edmunds here. And then add in Patrick Mahomes essentially throwing a no-look pass, because when you look at it from the end zone angle, he's kind of looking this way. His body's looking that way, and his posture's looking that way, and the ball obviously ends up going down here. So talk about that. And the stress, again, it's something that we've talked about in this breakdown, is how much stress they put on Tremaine Edmunds.
Do you have the end zone angle for this play?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, because this play is the play I use when I explain we don't give enough credit to our opponents when they make good plays. Because Edmunds, like you said, is put under so much conflict on this play. Yes, I'd like to see him get more width on this as he sees, Kelsey kind of open up a little bit towards the inside and try to get behind him on the deep over. I'd like to see him be better on that. Like you said, get the head on the swivel, find your target, because you have the athleticism to go play man in that moment. Find your target and smother yourself all over them, because I think Edmunds has the ability to do that at that point. But I think that's an area I think that's his biggest area to improve in coverage. It's his ability to have awareness for those crossers going on behind him, and his ability to find them, identify them, and take them away. And maybe that is somewhat because of scheme, because you don't want to play so decisively taking away one target, because it could decisively open up another target. But on that play specifically, he's put in so much conflict, and you really have to give a lot of credit to Mahomes and Kelsey on that one, because that ball was thrown before Kelsey was even.
That's a hell of a throw.
Yeah.
He wasn't even with Edmunds, and he made the throw. So you got to give credit to your opponents sometime.
Right. And Anthony, here's another banjo coverage between Tremaine Edmunds, Taron Johnson. So you see the route concept here. Look where Edmunds is. He's passing the vertical route by the tight end. He's like, okay, that guy's going past me. I need to get my eyes on the next threat, the next target. And watch what happens here. The little exchange between Edmunds and Taron Johnson. So as the receiver curls up in front of Taron Johnson, you're going to see Taron Johnson hinge and get back to cover this out route from the tight end. And then you see the cover down, the plaster from Tremaine Edmunds. Again, this is a play that the quarterback's looking to throw it probably right here. He's looking right there. And Edmunds, Johnson take it away, and he ends up scrambling. So this is not one, those plays where you're giving credit to Tremaine Edmunds or even a Taron Johnson on this play because it's zone coverage. It's a banjo zone coverage, but nonetheless, this is where the quarterback wanted to go with the ball. He's not able to and ends up scrambling for possibly the first down there.
And this is part of that coverage piece, right? Forget about the scramble for an instance. Think about how, again, we mentioned the vanilla type thing with the Bills defense, right? But think about how complex what you have to do. Taron Johnson and Tremaine Edmunds both have to read the same thing at roughly the same time to be able to pass this off properly and execute the way that they're supposed to. If Taron reads the wrong thing, what happens if Taron and Tremaine both sit on the hitch? Then the tight end is wide open behind, which I believe actually happens in this game on another play.
It's earlier in the game. This is actually the second play that I showed on Twitter. Yep.
So imagine if Taron doesn't drop back, that route's open. Or imagine if Tremaine miscommunicates and he carries the tight end too far up the field. Myers can just hitch and go into the middle of the field a little more, and Mac Jones can lead him and he can get a completion. So you have so many communication pieces, and everybody has to be on the same page and see the same thing at the right time. And then in this instance, they did all that in coverage. Great job. That's a win in coverage, but then you don't have proper rush lane integrity. And then because you executed in coverage and you went with your guys, there's a huge gaping, area to run in, and Mac Jones finds some space. And that's where, again, you're almost damned if you do, damned if you don't. You execute well, but you still get beat. Sometimes, again, you just got to tip your hat or try and coach up other areas, but it's hard to correct for everything and win at everything all the time.
Yeah, and Kendall, I know this is one of your favorite plays. This one's against the Buccaneers and Bills. Again, pattern matching, but they're executing it's called a clamp. So it's basically they're worried about Gronk and they want to eliminate him, so they're matching off of his route. And watch how Taron Johnson, prior to the snap, backs off because he's pattern matching Gronk here, and they're reading those guys. And you can see, as I talked about earlier, if these guys break out, they're going to trap. And that's what the Bucs show here. So you see Gronk look like he's running the out route, but he's actually running a jerk route. So you see him look like he's breaking out. Taron Johnson wants to break. He's communicating it to the safety on the back end there. So Edmunds says, okay, that's not my guy. I need to get my eyes over the middle. Here comes that guy over the middle. So continuity in this coverage, continuity in this defense. And you see them both clamp down. So you see Edmunds clamp on that, but Gronk bends it back up the field. And so now you see Jordan Poyer have to make a play down the field. But again, Edmunds is there. He's doing his job. He's being consistent. He's pattern matching, something that a lot of people didn't believe he could do out of college at Virginia Tech. But he does a good job of it here. The Bucs have a good play call to go against it. So it kind of gives you an idea that they had an idea what type of coverage they were going to see from Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott. But players make plays. You see Jordan Poyer make a play on the back end there, Kendall. So what do you love about this play, brother?
To me, this play, the reason I love this play is because there were so many times where I felt like Edmunds was getting beat on these drag routes. He was allowing these easy completions in front of him to go for too many yards after the catch. Like I said, I'm aware that it's, process high to low. You're going to allow those easy drag routes, but you got to play in front of it enough to make the tackle and mitigate the gain. And on this play, he identifies the drag from Tyler Johnson, number 18, so early. He's looking through Gronk at the moment. He's trying to sell that stick nod route. He's looking through his body. He identifies the drag. He takes it away. You can see Tom Brady pump fake because he doesn't have anyone open, and he just has to go to the beater for this play, which is Gronk running up the seam essentially to beat Poyer. But like you said, I mean, good players make good plays, and because everyone was doing their job, Poyer was able to show his athleticism and make a play.
Yeah, and so I know, we're going deep into the weeds in coverages, but I wanted to show you that, the Bills played a lot of zone coverage, but it was a lot of pattern matching coverages and a lot of coverages that based on the formation, Tremaine Edmunds had to get them into that coverage. And then again, read usually 2-1 or 3-2, depending on the coverage. It's just something that falls by the wayside on the broadcast because you don't see these type of angles and this type of analysis live and in, as the bullets are flying. But it's something that it's the context that we need to add to some of the reception surrendered stats and stuff like that from these companies. Again, companies that we fully invest in a lot of money when we're talking about statistic memberships. But there are still flaws to the system, and some systems are better than the other. With that said, Kendall, where can we find you on social media and this week as far as content goes?
So you can find me at my Twitter handle at Mursky Kendall. I'll be posting a bunch of random clips from draft prospects that I'm interested in. I'm kind of jumping from position to position at the moment, which probably isn't the smartest thing to do, but I'll figure out the organization of it eventually. No, but you can find me content creation wise every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Monday and Thursdays on the Air Raid Hour. And then, of course, Tuesdays here in the film room. So hope you guys enjoyed and happy to provide.
Anthony, Mr. Workhorse, what you got going on this week, brother?
Find me on Twitter at __Ant. That's pro 2 underscores ANT. I've been doing a lot of college scouting and position breakdowns. I'm on wide receivers right now. I posted 3 wide receiver threads today that I feel like people didn't care about, which is disappointing because I spent a lot of time on it.
About it.
Give
Appreciate
it time.
you,
Give
Kendall.
it
You're
time.
a good guy. You find me doing that on the old Twitter. You find me here every week on the film room, and then find me as the host of Disguise Coverage live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Got a bit of a super show going tomorrow with Mr. Aaron Quinn returning, Mr. Anthony Romeo returning, and then Mr. Steve
between
Mathis.
2 Anthonys.
Yeah, between 2 Anthonys with a little Aaron, a little Steve Mathis added in. We're going to be looking at the Buffalo Bills defense, going through each position, grouping on the Bills defense and addressing priority needs and how to attack those needs this offseason. And yeah, that's me. And I'm a Gemini. I like moonlit walks on the beach. I'm a big cocktail guy, daiquiris, Miami Vices. Not so much pina coladas, but in a Miami Vice with a daiquiri I'll take, and whiskey sours. And yeah, that's me.
All right, guys. Again, thanks for joining us in the film room. That's the crew. Make sure to get to the Cover One YouTube channel. Make sure to follow the guys at their handles as you see on the screen. And I'm Erik Turner, host of the film room. We'll see you next week.